Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Redox for Life podcast show. And we're your hosts. I'm Levi. This is Lamika Renee. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing that discussion on how service providers are making a difference in their community. And today, we are continuing that with Dr. Flowers. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Flowers.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me and thank you for what you do on your platform.
Thank you so much. Dr. Rhoda Flowers. I'm sure our viewers would love to know who Dr. Rhoda Flowers is and what inspired you to venture into the career path that you're in.
Absolutely. So, my name is Dr. Rhoda Flowers. I'm board certified in family medicine and I also practice what's known as functional medicine. And what inspired me to take this path when I was a young girl, I used to go with my grandmother and my mother to the hospital. I did not see very many people who looked like me at all. And so I said to myself, you know what? I want to be in a space where I can impact another little girl and I can impact my community, the moms, the dads, the grandmas who look like me and give them good care. Because the reality was you could actually feel the healthcare disparities. And so that's really what drove me into medicine. And really, growing up Caribbean, I'm second generation Haitian American. We grew up on the oils and the teas and the herbs as medicine, right? And so I said, you know what? It would be great to combine the two, to do the traditional medicine and learn the Western medicine and make a difference and an impact in people's lives.
Love that. Let me ask you this question. Is it common practice nowadays to combine both holistic and medical practice in one, such as yourself?
So it's not as common as I'd like to see it. There are a pocket of us physicians who are coming out of the main system and going into more private practice who are having the best of both worlds. We understand the Western medicine and we're also coming to understand the functional medicine piece of it, or in some cases, Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine. We're really taking hold of the newer cellular health technologies or even the health technologies that are coming down the pike with genetic AI and other health technologies. And so I'll say those of us who are more innovative or those of us who are more holistic minded, we're coming out and we're creating these pockets that better serve our community. But as a whole, most physicians are in an employed setting where they have to practice by a certain guideline that doesn't necessarily support the functional medicine.
Thank you for sharing that. I just had a doctor's appointment the other day and I don't want to be on medication, so I'm going the holistic route. And I'm so happy to hear that you're on that path too, because I tell you, my doctor, she will sit in the office with me and explain word from word. We mentioned earlier prior to the show, if you don't mind sharing with us about how the red tape, I'll just say that.
I can't necessarily speak to the red tape per se, but what I can say is a lot, if not most or all of the services that functional medicine providers provide are not covered by insurance companies. So if you want to get a cellular health assessment, a gut health assessment, or a hormone health assessment that's not necessarily the traditional hormone panel, those are add-ons, right? Those are the things that look more deeply at the health of a body, but the insurance company does not cover that. And to your point, you also mentioned that your primary
Wow.
care or
Okay,
your
perfect.
doctor
So,
spends time with you, and that's great on her part. However, most of us have to see a certain number of patients per day within a certain time frame, within so many minutes. And so it may not be possible to achieve that with the traditional model.
Thank you for explaining that. Yes. Doctor, what are some of the highlights in your line of work?
Every day that I get to make an impact in a life is a highlight. And with every patient, there's some type of impact that's made. And I have quite a few stories to share with that. I'll share a different one than what I shared earlier for you. So I had a patient. I was working in Columbus, Georgia at the time, early 2000s. And I was the first African American woman to be appointed as the physician for the city of Columbus, which was a very high honor. So I had a patient come in who had high blood pressure again, but she didn't feel her blood pressure. So until we took it, I took a measurement, she didn't know she had high blood pressure. And so she was very motivated, very much like your audience. She did not want to be on medication. And I said, okay, I'll work with you. We wrote out a plan. And I said to her, make sure you eat enough of your greens every day and come back in 3 days and get your blood pressure checked. So she comes back and her blood pressure is higher. I said, what's going on? I thought you said you were motivated. We talked about eating greens and not eating fast food, exercises. She says, I'm doing all of that, I promise you. I said, okay, it does take time sometimes. Go home, same thing, eat your greens, come back, let's check again. So she comes back, and sure enough, her blood pressure is higher. And I said, all right, it could take up to 6 weeks. Go ahead back. Let's give you more time. Let's do 2 weeks this time. So I'm talking to my then husband, generally speaking, hey, I have this patient. She says she's very motivated. I don't know what I'm doing. I told her to eat her greens, and her blood pressure is even higher than before. Now, I'm Haitian American, I'm Caribbean, and from the North. My husband at the time is from the South. And so he asked me a question I would never have thought of. He said, ask her how she's preparing her greens. I said, what do you mean? They're leafy greens, lettuce, broccoli, etc. I said, how else can you prepare them? Sure enough, I went back and I said, how are you preparing your greens? And she said, with ham hocks and fat back. And I said to her, ma'am, I need you to eat leafy greens. No fat back, no ham hocks, no chitlins, none of that. And sure enough, she started eating fresh greens, salads, broccoli, etc. And her blood pressure came down. She did not need any medication, and she was very grateful. And I'm grateful for that opportunity, and also for the ability, the different languages, right? Because I came speaking Northern English, but she speaks Southern English. So greens to her, totally different than what greens means to me.
In my mind, I'm thinking turnip greens.
Yeah, some kale, some spinach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's a fantastic story. I love it. So let me ask you about your holistic practice and being an MD yourself. Do you find yourself that there's a small segment of the population of MDs that is implementing holistic care, or even taking the holistic mantle and just really implementing that into their?
Great question. Actually, I am a DO, a doctor of osteopathic medicine, which is similar to the MD. We have the additional benefit of learning what we call OM. So if you could think of a chiropractor and a massage therapist in one, where we can manipulate the bones and the muscles to relieve tension, illness, etc. in the body, that's what a DO is. So DOs and MDs are very similar in that regard. To answer your question, there are more and more physicians who are realizing that there's a gap in healthcare, right? A gap that is being filled by newer health technologies, artificial intelligence, genetics, AI, cellular health and wellness, gut health assessments that we can actually better help our patients with. And so I'm seeing more and more physicians who are taking the leap and looking into these newer, and in some cases older, modalities to take care of patients. So those of us who are fortunate enough to be able to be physician entrepreneurs, physician business owners, or in private practice somehow, those are the ones who are able to do functional medicine under what's known as a DPC model, direct primary care, because I don't think any insurance companies really cover the functional medicine piece of it.
And do you implement your holistic profession into their prescribed doses?
Yes. So I take care of the patient that's in front of me. So every patient will need something different. I do personal injury. Me personally, I do Suboxone, immigration health. I do quite a bit of a wide scope of medicine. And so every patient that's in front of me will have a unique need. And so I meet them where they are. So if they don't need functional medicine, I don't necessarily offer it or even talk about it. But if they do need it, then that's a tool that I have in my arsenal that I can deploy on their behalf.
So, doctor, what are some of the habits that you've to help you succeed, and what lessons have you taken from them?
Ooh, great question. I'll start with the lessons first. I'm a physician entrepreneur, which means in addition to being a doctor, I've actually also owned my own practices. I've actually owned both primary care and urgent care. I was able to do seven figures for the primary care. For urgent care, we had multiple and we did a roll up, meaning we sold it to a bigger company. And so with that experience, I've helped other doctors do the same. And in medicine, we are taught not to fail because failure can be fatal. However, in business, failure is feedback And failure can be done moving forward. So you can fail forward. And when you fail, you use that as feedback to figure out, okay, what is it that I need to innovate on? And what is that I need to improve upon? So one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn that it is okay to fail. Hard. We don't like it, but it's not like being in medicine where someone's life can be on the line. So to all my doctor friends who are listening, feel free to step out into the entrepreneurial path. And it's okay if you have a stumble or an obstacle or two or three. In terms of the habits, really it's the habit of putting one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, because from room to room, I never know what's going on behind the door with a patient. Is it a simple cough, cold, URI, or is it a stroke on the other side, right? Same thing in business, put one foot in front of the other. This endeavor did not work. This project did not work. I missed the goal. I missed the deadline. Let's take the next step. Like we talked about a little bit earlier about watching the Olympics, and Simone Biles is killing it, but she had a stumble and she kept going. So she got right back on the beam and kept going. So same thing, just put one foot in front of the other, just keep swimming, like Dory says, and keep it moving.
That's fantastic. I love that. I was going to just putting one foot in front of the other.
I do have a quick question for you, Doctor.
Sure.
If you were a superhero,
If I were a superhero, who would I be? Oh, that's a good one. I don't know if this superhero quite exists yet, but I remember in King T'Challa. Do you remember when he went in and they put him under the water and they had some healing solutions that essentially healed the wounds and the illnesses and made them stronger? If I were a superhero, I would probably be that type of a superhero that was able to impart the healing with some type of, which we can do to some extent, but to have a center or a space where people can go, a fountain of youth, if you will, to get healing that they need for their bodies from the inside out on the cellular level. Really, I feel like that type of healing was deep into their soul, right? So that's the type of superhero I'd want to be.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
and that could be it. Yeah, that
Yeah,
could come
that's
to
it.
pass.
Yeah, it sure can. We can make that happen. Definitely. So through all your learning and in practice and stuff like that, have you developed a course like that where you teach other physicians, how to do what you've done?
Yes, thank you for asking. Great question. I have created a group, a community of physicians where I teach them both the business aspect as well as some of the newer health technologies that are coming out. So, again, we don't get business education in medical school. And so, one of the things that I've done is I've taken not only my personal experience, but I've done 10 years of business education, and I'm still continuing to work with my own mentors, and I've created a group for physicians where they can learn practical, real-time medical business education so that they can accelerate their medical practices if they want, or they can transition into non-clinical careers. Some physicians want to speak. Some physicians want to do research or coach, do consulting. And so I help them navigate the transition from clinical practice to non-clinical practice. And finally, I help those who are retiring sell their businesses. So I help them optimize. So for the docs out there who are still on paper charts, we help get them up to date on the EMR, or we help them to really get their staff together, get the culture of the office together, create a transition plan, optimize the flow of the office so that they can get a little bit more money for their practice that they worked so hard to build. And they can rest assured that their patients will be well taken care of after they leave the office. So those are some of the things that I do with the doc. So we a lot of us physicians, one of our biggest challenges is what happens to my patient after I leave. So I've exited quite a few offices as a clinician, and that was my greatest worry. What happens to my patient after I leave? And so we create transition plans for doctors who are retiring so that they can have a farewell, if you will, with their patients. It's help the new office personnel to really get established so that there's a smooth handoff, essentially, which gives them the peace of mind that their patients are well taken care of.
Love that. What was the one thing that you found that most physicians are dealing with? I know it's business, but I'm talking about as far as in the office. What is a common theme that these physicians are dealing with on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis that is mundane, that it takes up some time where they can implement something else or another tool to help them to utilize that time more efficiently?
Great question. I would probably say it varies from doctor to doctor, but right now I'll say it's documentation, the EHR, the EMR. However, there are newer tools that are coming out to help doctors to document in a way that does not consume so much time. Just as we're having a conversation, you and I, we can actually have a conversation with patients now, and the documentation is being done for us. All we have to do is review it, make sure that it's accurate for legal purposes and also for therapeutic purposes. And then with the click of a button, we're done. And that's really important so that doctors can do the one thing that very few people talk about, which is take care of themselves. All day, we pour out to others, we're pouring out to our patients, we're pouring out to our staff, we're pouring out to our families. So every minute that a doctor can have to look internal, to really exercise the self care muscle, to take a breath, to really decompress, is really recharging the physician so that they can have more to give.
Love it.
Nice.
Love that right there.
Thank you.
Fantastic. That's great. Love the question. How can they discover more about Dr. Flowers, how to help other physicians become more successful in strategies and also rehabilitating their practice?
Absolutely. I can be found on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as Dr. Rhoda Donat Flowers. You can also find me online for physicians at Donat Flowers, DONAT Flowers.com. And also, you can find me talking about some health tech stuff on WellnessSuite360.com. WellnessSuite360.com.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Dr. Flowers. She is everywhere on social media, LinkedIn. Find her to learn more about exit strategies, how to implement new ideas into your practice to become more efficient. So thank you very much for joining the Redox for Life podcast show, Dr. Flowers. Once again, we're your hosts. I'm Levi. This is Lamika Renee, on the Redox for Life podcast show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Yes.